So in this video, I'm going to cover 5 reasons that fearful avoidant attachment styles, aka disorganized attachment styles, tend to be a little bit slower to introduce people they're dating to their parents, sometimes to their friends, or to other family members as a whole. And if you weren't sure about this and you were taking it personally, these 5 reasons might be really useful to know and to understand. And of course, if you are the fearful avoidant, it will be very useful to recognize some of these patterns within yourself and what they mean and why they're happening. So, reason number one is that the fearful avoidant often flip flops. They tend to go from this dynamic of being all in and feeling really invested in their relationships, really excited, to then feeling really afraid, suspicious, doubtful. And that constant flip flopping is a big way of understanding whether or not you are, in fact, a fearful avoidant attachment style. If you are constantly going back and forth in your mind and making excuses to take space, but then also making excuses to get close, and you just feel like that cycle is playing out over and over again, probably it's because you are a fearful avoidant attachment style. That entire cycle can be very exhausting. And what you'll see is this actually comes from having competing emotional associations about the same thing. So love and relationships being the thing, okay? And growing up in your upbringing, you often had really painful associations and experiences with love and relationships. Maybe there was broken trust or broken promises or a painful divorce or fear or a lot of feeling controlled or dynamics like that, but then a lot of really great experiences around love and connection where you felt connected and you felt like you could rely on somebody or maybe less so rely on somebody because that's not a huge part of the fearful avoidance experience, but deeply connect, open up, have these sort of vulnerable moments. A lot of times it's a more one-way connection towards you being there for somebody in your life rather than the other way around. However, there are definitely still highlights and really great moments of connection and depth in a variety of different forms. So you've got this one thing, which is love and relationships, and you have like these competing ideas about what it looks like. And so as a result of that, what you're just inevitably going to see is that when you get into dynamics where you're progressing a relationship with somebody, you'll constantly feel that flip-flop of, let me bring them closer, let me introduce them to everybody, let me incorporate them and really integrate them into my life. Oh wait, that could be scary, that's too soon, they're too close. And you'll feel that dynamic play out in like the bonding and really integrating that person into your life at a deeper level. Reason number two is the fear of shame, the fear of being shamed, really. The fear that the person will think that the person that your parents, your friends, that person, whoever it is, will think the person you're dating is not a great person, or they're not up to standards, or that they'll judge them, or things like that. And really, the fearful avoidant attachment style, they can really struggle with a lot of shame. And so they may find themselves in a position where they're worried about that judgment or that person being shamed or them feeling ashamed of the person they're dating. And it's not because they're actually ashamed of the person they're dating. It's that other people's opinions of them with the person they're with or the person they're with themselves, when those opinions come up, they can really feel ashamed about how that person's judging them, just to be super clear, because they're actually two quite separate things. Number three, fearful avoidants have this codependency complex where they have a difficult time not trying to manage everybody's feelings in a group. And it can lead them to feel exhausted when they are integrating people from different areas and different aspects of life. I can remember, just as one example, having a conversation with a client who I'd been working with for quite a few months. And I remember her saying to me that she was so proud because one of the biggest wins for her is that she had a birthday party. She actually celebrated herself and she brought all these people into the birthday party, from friends from childhood, friends from university, friends from her new job, family members. And she said, everybody was there. And I didn't make it about managing everybody's feelings in the experience. I actually just allowed myself to enjoy myself. And because fearful avoidants have a lot of guilt and codependency and the way they were conditioned, they can easily feel like, oh my gosh, the stress of bringing my partner to my parents and then managing everybody's expectations and whether they get along and whether, everybody likes each other and making sure everybody feels comfortable. It just feels like too much stress. I don't want to do it. So it's a big thing that will often pop up. Number four, there can be a big dynamic of the fearful avoidant being afraid of being too committed. Fearful avoidants often have a fear of like larger commitments. And so not all commitments, but larger commitments overall. And those larger commitments, when it really comes down to it, it can feel like they are pretty good with small commitments, but the big ones is where those trust wounds tend to come up, those big fears of betrayal come up. And so the idea of kind of like crossing the river into this new level of the relationship because you've introduced everybody to each other can sometimes just feel really vulnerable and trigger a lot of fearful avoidance trust wounds or fears of being trapped or stuck in this big commitment. So that can absolutely be something that comes up. By the way, if as I'm going through these things, you see a lot of these in yourself as a fearful avoidant or your partner as a fearful avoidant, there's a course called The 6 Stages of the Fearful Avoidant Relationship. And it's all about how the fearful avoidant shows up in all of the 6 stages. So when you're dating them, when you're in the honeymoon stage and committed, in the power struggle stage, all the way through the 6 stages to the bliss stage. And we talk about what fears will come up and what to reprogram, how to do it, what needs will come up, how to communicate to the FA or as the FA about the needs, the different wounds and challenges, like just misperceptions that can come up or expectations, how to work through those things. We cover all of those. You can check it all out for 14 days for free, including access to our entire PDS platform, where we have daily, sometimes twice a day, community events, webinars with myself, webinars with other coaches that we have at PDS. And so if you want to come in, get your questions answered, get a ton of support through myself, through our other team members, through the community, and get access to all of the courses at PDS for free for 14 days, use the link below. We're just doing this because it's Mental Health Month for May. So it's a one-time thing. Check it out before you miss out. And I'll go back to the video. So the last piece, and this is actually a really interesting one, number 5, is the fear of being seen or known and feeling out of control of the narrative. So fearful avoidance, they tend to like really, they're not very controlling of other people the vast majority of the time. I mean, they can be, but I would say that's like 10% of FAs. The vast majority of FAs are not controlling of other people, but they really like to be in control of themselves. And usually it's because growing up, they felt out of control of their lives. So they try to like control things. And if they feel too seen or too known or too vulnerable, when it's not them allowing themselves to open up and be that vulnerable, it's more like their parents could say something vulnerable about them to their partner, or their friends could say something vulnerable about them to their partner. That is something a fearful avoidant really doesn't like because it triggers those big core wounds of feeling helpless or out of control that are usually deeply rooted from childhood. So there can be this need to kind of keep people separate so that you don't feel out of control and helpless because of things that are out of your control about what goes on. And so it can be this big dynamic that plays into that at a really deep level. So anyways, those are 5 major reasons to pay attention to. Definitely 5 things you want to dig into, heal, reprogram if there are big fears coming up. They can definitely, a lot of those things prevent you from becoming securely attached. And relationships are so much more likely to succeed if we're securely attached. They are so much more likely to fail. I'll get you a percent on that. By what percent? But I would guess it's somewhere around 60-70% more likely to fail if we are insecurely attached. And of course, once you start doing the work, that changes because you're becoming more and more secure and dealing with those things. But just the impact of having an insecure style is really, really big. So anyways, so those resources are all there for you for 14 days for free, more than enough time to get through at least one, probably more like 2 or 3 courses that you've been dying to maybe dig into or check out. And that's my gift to you for the Mental Health Month of May. Thank you for watching. I hope you enjoyed this, and I will see you in tomorrow's video.